The immortal God, to whom honour and glory be ascribed forever, has blessed us with so signal a victory, as scarce the memory of man can equal. These words I wrote 12 years ago in the tent of a defeated enemy on the night we saved Christendom. They called me the Lion of Lechistan, the saviour of Vienna, the defender of Europe. But tonight, as my heart grows heavy and my breath comes short, I am simply Jan, a man who loved too deeply, fought too fiercely, and dreamed of making Poland great again. Let me tell you how a boy from Olesko became the instrument of God's providence, and the price such glory demands. I was born August 17th, 1629, at Olesko Castle, a fortress on the edge of wilderness, where Poles, Tatars and Cossacks lived in constant tension. My father, Jakub, was Castellan of Krakow, the highest secular office in the Senate. But more than rank, he gave me something precious: education. My great-grandfather was Stanisław Żółkiewski, a hetman who fell fighting the Ottomans. His blood ran in my veins. From childhood, I knew stories of his victories against the Turks and Russians. Warfare was not just my inheritance, it was my destiny. At 12, I entered the Jesuit Collegium Nowodworskie in Krakow. There, I learned the classics, rhetoric, philosophy. My father insisted I read Cicero, that provincial Roman who rose to greatness through education and eloquence. "Science graces a man in all places," my father wrote to me. At war, at court, at home, and in the Commonwealth. After university, my brother Marek and I toured Europe for 2 years. Paris, London, Leiden. I met the great men of the age: Louis II de Bourbon, Charles II of England, William of Orange. I learned French, German, Italian. I studied fortifications and military science. But in 1648, word reached us. King Władysław had died, and the Cossacks under Bohdan Khmelnytsky had risen in rebellion. Poland was bleeding. We raced home. At 19, I raised my own banner of cavalry and rode to war. The Battle of Berestechko, fighting Cossacks, Tatars, seeing my homeland torn apart. My brother Marek, my companion, my friend, was captured by Tatars. He died in their captivity in 1652. That loss, it hardened something in me. I swore I would master the art of war so completely that no enemy would prevail. King John Casimir saw my promise. He sent me as envoy to the Ottoman court. In Constantinople, I learned the Turkish language, the Tatar tongue. I studied Ottoman tactics, their janissaries, their cavalry. I watched their armies train. Know your enemy, I learned, and you can defeat him. I even spent time in the Crimean Tatar capital of Bakhchisarai. Little did I know that decades later, this knowledge would save Europe itself. In 1661, my life changed forever. Not through battle, but through the eyes of a woman. Marie Casimir de Lagrange d'Arquien, we called her Marysienka. A French beauty, she was married to Jan Zamoyski, a wealthy magnate who treated her with contempt. She was 12 years younger than I. When our eyes met, I was lost. We began an affair, dangerous, forbidden, passionate. To hide our love from spying eyes, we wrote in code. She was my Astrea, I was her Celadon, names from a French romance novel she lent me. Love became oranges, letters were fruit or confiture. My beloved Astrea, the autumn sends word to his dawn that the oranges grow stronger each day we are apart. The essence of my being is found only in your presence. Her husband we called dossier, fool, mackerel. We were not kind, but love makes rebels of us all. In 1665, Zamoyski died. Marie Casimir was free. That same year, I married her, and that same year, through the influence of Queen Maria Louisa, I became Grand Marshal of the Crown. As Grand Marshal, then Field Hetman, and finally Grand Hetman, commander of all Polish forces, I spent years on campaign. Battles against Tatars, Cossacks, Turks, but always, always I wrote to my Marisenka. My loveliest Marisenka, the only solace of my heart and soul. I kiss and embrace you with all my heart and soul. She was my strength, my inspiration, my political advisor. Where others saw merely a soldier, she saw a king. November 11th, 1673. The fortress of Kotin, massive Ottoman stronghold. For years, the Turks had been pushing into Poland. They'd taken Podolia. They demanded tribute. They treated us like vassals. I raised an army, much of it from my own fortune, and I attacked. The battle was monumental. Blood on frozen ground. The screams of dying men. The clash of steel. And when the sun set, the fortress was ours. The Ottomans were defeated. The news of my victory reached Warsaw on the very day King Michał Korybut Wiśniowiecki died. The timing seemed providential. May 19th, 1674. The nobility gathered to elect their new king. Poland's system was unique. We did not inherit our crown, we competed for it. Foreign powers bribed and intrigued. The great magnates schemed. But the people wanted a warrior king, a defender. Almost universally, they chose me. John Sobieski would become John III, King of Poland and Grand Duke of Lithuania. Yet even my coronation had to wait. War called. It was not until February 2nd, 1676, nearly 2 years later, that I was finally crowned. I became king of the largest state in Europe, but also one devastated by half a century of constant war. I dreamed of reforming Poland, of making the monarchy hereditary, ensuring my sons would inherit, of strengthening our army, securing our borders. But the magnates, they feared a strong king. They blocked reforms. They refused taxes to pay the army. Marisenka urged me toward France, toward Louis XIV's model of absolute monarchy. But Poland was not France. Our nobles guarded their freedoms jealously, even if those freedoms meant our nation's weakness. Meanwhile, the Turkish threat grew. Sultan Mehmed IV prepared for something unprecedented, something that would dwarf all previous campaigns. In spring 1683, our spies brought word. The Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa was assembling the largest army the Ottoman Empire had ever mobilized. Perhaps 150,000 men, perhaps more. Janissaries, Sipahi cavalry, artillery, the Sultan's elite forces, their target, Vienna, the heart of the Holy Roman Empire. If Vienna fell, all of Central Europe would lie open. The Ottomans could project their power into Germany, into Italy, into France itself. Emperor Leopold, who had long refused alliance with Poland, now came begging. On March 31st, 1683, we signed a mutual defence pact. If either capital was threatened, we would come to the other's aid. Leopold promised war subsidies. I promised 40,000 men. Either Vienna will perish or defend itself. Both shall be inconvenient for us, because it is much better to fight in a foreign land, eating foreign bread and with the assistance of all the forces of the empire, than to defend oneself at one's own cost when our friends and neighbours abandon us if we do not come to their aid immediately. Better to fight the Turks in Austria than in Poland. July 14th. The Ottoman army reached Vienna. Emperor Leopold fled with his court and his treasure. He left only 15,000 defenders under Count Starhemberg. The city was doomed. For 2 months, Vienna held. Barely. The Ottomans dug mines, blew gaps in the walls. Disease spread, cholera, typhus, dysentery. Water ran low. The defenders were down to 4,000 able men. The walls were crumbling. It was only a matter of days. August 15th, I departed Krakow with my army. Before leaving, I stopped at Jasnogora Monastery to pray before the Black Madonna, Poland's most sacred icon. My dearest Celadon, go with God, save Christendom, but return to me. The Commonwealth's legal system required the Sejm's permission for military action outside our borders. Miraculously, they granted it. I also contributed nearly 500,000 złotys from my own fortune. We marched with over 20,000 Poles, several dozen kilometers per day. 3 weeks to reach the Danube. September 3rd, Stetteldorf. The Allied commanders gathered, Austrians, Germans, Saxons, Bavarians, some 45,000 additional troops. Together with my 20,000 Poles, we had perhaps 65,000 to 76,000 men total. The German commanders resented the idea of a Polish king commanding them, but Duke Charles of Lorraine, who had once been my rival for the Polish crown, he understood. He knew I had the experience. He knew I had studied the Ottomans for 30 years. They gave me the Marshal's mace, supreme command of the relief force. We had perhaps 100,000 Turks between us and the city, and we had to cross the Vienna woods, mountainous, densely forested terrain. My beloved Marisyenka, tomorrow we give battle. All my countrymen march with the same bravery to the relief of Vienna as the soldiers of Godfrey of Bouillon did to the Holy Land. The miraculous cross that you presented me, which was his companion in that expedition, I believe contributed no less to our victory. September the 12th, dawn. On Kahlenberg Hill, in the ruins of a church burned by the Turks, a Capuchin monk named Marco Daviano celebrated Mass. I served at that Mass. I prayed for God's blessing on what we were about to do. At 8 o'clock in the morning, our army descended from the Vienna woods. 37,000 infantry, 130 artillery pieces. The Saxons and Bavarians attacked first. Then the imperial troops hit the Ottoman center. The Turks fought like lions. But Kara Mustafa made a fatal error. He kept half his army in the siege trenches facing Vienna, when he should have turned his entire force against us. He was greedy. He wanted the glory and plunder of capturing Vienna for himself. By afternoon, the Ottoman lines were wavering. Deep ravines had slowed my Polish cavalry. But now the time had come. At about 5 o'clock in the evening, I mounted my horse. My son Alexander, my mignonette, rode at my side. Beside us, 3,000 Polish Winged Hussars, the finest heavy cavalry in the world. Wings mounted on their backs, eagle feathers, ostrich feathers, designed to strike terror. With the Poles, the Austrian and German cavalry formed the largest cavalry charge in history. 18,000 horsemen. We looked down at the Ottoman camp spread before us. I raised my sword. I gave the command, and we charged. Down the forested hills we came, screaming, the ground trembling beneath 20,000 hooves. The rattling of our wings filled the air like the sound of demons. The Austrian and German soldiers below us cheered. The Ottomans looked up in terror. We struck like God's hammer. The Ottoman cavalry tried to form up, tried to receive our charge, but nothing could stand against us. We shattered their lines, broke their formations, sent them reeling. By 5:30, the Ottoman battle line was broken. Their forces scattered in disorder. 20,000 Turks lay dead, 5,000 more wounded. Our losses, 1,500 dead, perhaps 2,500 wounded. At 5:30, I entered the tent of Kara Mustafa. The Grand Vizier had fled in such panic that he left everything behind. His banners, his treasures, his correspondence, his harem. Though in his despair and jealousy, he had killed the women rather than let them fall into our hands alive. That night, in the tent of my enemy, I wrote 2 letters. One to Pope Innocent und Sobieski, one to my beloved Marishenka. Venimus, vidimus, Deus visit. We came, we saw, and God conquered. Not veni, vidi, vici. I came, I saw, I conquered, like Caesar's boast. But Deus vicit, God conquered. For it was not my hand that won this victory. It was his. In the vizier's tents, in the night, the only solace of my heart and soul, the loveliest and most beloved Marisienku. God our Lord, blessed for eternity, has granted a victory and glory to our nation, the like of which was never heard of in centuries past. All the cannons, all the camp, uncounted riches have fallen into our hands. The rarities which were found in the prime vizier's tent were no less numerous than strange and surprising as very curious parrots and some birds of paradise, with all his fountains, and some ostriches, which he chose rather to kill than let them fall alive into our hands. For 2 nights and a day, people have been dismantling the tents, whoever wished. Even the townspeople have come out. But I know that even in a week, they will not manage to take all of this down. All my way for 2 Hungarian miles together are so strewed with the carcasses of men, horses and camels that the stench of them would be insupportable to any but a soldier. I rejoice to see our son Alexander, of so clear and undaunted a courage, who always stuck to me in my most imminent dangers, and made the first onset on a body of Turkish cavalry, with that courage that he put him soon to flight. I must be finishing now, kissing and embracing my loveliest Marishenka with all my heart and soul. The next day, I entered Vienna. The people, those who had survived, poured into the streets. All the common people kissed my hands, my feet, my clothes. Others only touched me, saying, "Ah, let us kiss so valiant a hand." Pope Innocent XI declared me saviour of Vienna and Western European civilization. The Turks themselves, in grudging respect, named me the Lion of Lechistan. Victory at Vienna made my name immortal, but it could not save Poland. The war against the Ottomans continued for 16 more years. I led campaigns into Hungary, into Moldavia. Most ended in frustration or failure. The Holy League was formed. Austria, Venice, Poland, the Papal States, united against the Ottomans. But in this league, Poland became the junior partner. The Austrians took the glory and the territorial gains. We gained nothing lasting. At home, the magnates continued to block my reforms. They would not make the monarchy hereditary. They would not grant me the power to save our Commonwealth from decline. My sons, Jakub, Alexander, Constanti, competed for influence but would never inherit my throne. In 1686, desperate for allies, I signed the Eternal Peace with Russia. Russia, Poland's traditional enemy. I ceded Kiev to them permanently. In return, they agreed to join the Holy League against the Turks. It broke my heart to give up that ancient city. But what choice did I have? I could not fight the Ottomans and the Russians simultaneously. By 1691, my health was failing. I grew obese. My heart troubled me. I continued to lead campaigns, but with less success. In that year's expedition to Moldavia, I was nearly captured, I who had never known defeat at Vienna. My sons quarrelled among themselves, each seeking to succeed me. The magnates made clear they would oppose all three. My beloved daughter Kunigunda at least found happiness. She married the Elector of Bavaria in 1694. That brought me some small comfort. Only Marysienka remained constant, my Astrea, my beloved. Even as my body failed, her love sustained me. I died on June 17, 1696, a sudden heart attack here at Wilanów. I was 66 years old. 3 years later, 3 years I did not live to see, the Ottomans signed the Treaty of Karlowitz. They ceded Hungary to Austria. They returned Podolia to Poland. The Turkish threat to Europe was ended forever. My body was laid to rest at Wawel Cathedral in Krakow, alongside Poland's kings. My heart was placed separately in the Church of the Transfiguration in Warsaw. A divided burial, perhaps fitting for a man torn between love and duty, between glory and frustration, between what was and what might have been. 100 years from now, will anyone remember Jan Sobieski? Will they know that on September 12, 1683, the fate of Christian Europe hung in the balance? That if Vienna had fallen, the Turks would have swept into Germany, into Italy, into France itself? I pray they remember. Not for my glory, God knows I had my share of pride and ambition. But so they understand what was at stake. So they know that civilization is fragile, that freedom must be defended, that sometimes one man in the right place at the right time can change the course of history. I loved her until the end, you know. My Marysienka. She will outlive me by 20 years, dying in France in 1716. They will bring her body back to Poland to rest beside mine, in death as in life, together. I achieved what no other Polish king could. I saved Europe. I defeated the Ottoman Empire at its moment of greatest strength. The Lion of Lechistan, they called me. But I could not save Poland itself, could not reform our laws, strengthen our state, secure my dynasty. Perhaps that is the price of being a hero. You can save the world, but not your own country. You can win immortal glory, but not domestic peace. You can be beloved of the people, but not of the magnates. Still, if I could return to that dawn on Kahlenberg Hill, knowing all that would follow, the frustrations, the failures, the broken dreams, would I do it again? Venimus, vidimus, Deus vicit. We came, we saw, and God conquered. Yes, 1,000 times, yes. For some moments are worth a lifetime. Some victories echo through eternity. And on that day, September 12, 1683, God used a Polish king and his Winged Hussars to turn back the darkness. To Vienna, to Poland, to Marysienka, and to the God who grants us both victory and the wisdom to bear its burdens. On Kahlenberg Hill, where we prayed before battle, there stands today a chapel full of Polish memorabilia, decorations depicting our victory. And on the altar, those words I wrote to the Pope: "We came, we saw, and God conquered."